Hello, everybody. It's me once again, Dustin Coyle. I'm coming at you live here on Thursday. What is it, July 19th? And we are going to be breaking down another UFC card. This is going to be Intelligent Thoughts, episode 51, UFC Fight Night 134 preview. All right, everybody. I hope you guys have been watching the fights. It's going to be obviously the second week in a row where I'm going to be doing a show for the UFC. The one in Boise went pretty well. Uh, JDS with a unanimous decision. Excuse me. Victory 5 rounds to 0 rounds. Pretty uneventful main card there, or main event there. But overall, a good experience. I think most people enjoyed Boise. I'm pretty sure it had a positive, like a positive reception. I saw that Junior DeSantos specifically was talking about that. He really enjoyed it. Um, but yeah, a good little show there. Let me go through the rest of the card here real quick before we get started. The co-main event of the evening in the welterweight division, we had Northcutt looking pretty good against Zach Otto. He got the KO with some punches in the second round. After weathering the storm in the first round, he was on the bottom. Zach Otto really decisively won the first round, but great little comeback there for Sage Northcutt. He gets the knockout. Obviously, a big that was his most difficult opponent he's ever fought to this point would be Otto. Big win for Northcutt there. Also, Rick Glenn getting the victory over Dennis Bermudez. A split decision there. One judge 30-27 in favor of Rick Glenn, and then the other two were 29-28. Obviously, one each. I thought Rick Glenn won the fight. I would give it 29-28. It was a pretty close fight, and Dennis Bermudez, did pretty well, especially in the closer distances. So, I mean, I don't really know how you could give him the 2 rounds, but overall it was a pretty close fight. But then again, doesn't really matter. Rick Glenn there with the victory. How about another welterweight one? Nico Price with the knockout of Randy Brown. Nico Price was actually on the bottom, and he had his left foot behind Brown's head, kind of like holding it, basically like the way you do it against the fence or something like that. And throwing some hammer fist, knocked him out with looked like probably the first or second hammer fist, and then delivered another 4 or 5 to him while he was already knocked out. It was actually a pretty bad knockout. It looked kind of weird, but he was cold, knocked out cold for sure. Really big win for Nico Price there. He looked pretty good in that one. So did Randy Brown though, but Nico Price really looked good. A lot of power, clearly. Talking about knockouts here, Chad Mendez in his return to the octagon knocks out Miles Jury in the first round. Kind of a fake right hook, step in to a left hook, and then just beat him with some punches on the ground. Super, super impressive performance there for Chad Mendez. He's clearly instantly catapulted back to where he was in the top 5, I would imagine. Before he got that suspension for the growth hormone. And then the final fight from the main card in the women's bantamweight division, Kat Zingano got the unanimous decision victory over Marion Renault. 2 of them 30-27, one of them 30-26. Didn't see the 30-26 for me, but 30-27, good for Kat. That's good, obviously big for her. It's been a long time since she had a victory. And, we'll see where this goes as far as the bantamweight division is concerned. She, wants to fight Nunez. Nunez wants to fight Cyborg. Cyborg, I think, wants to fight Nunez. You never know what's going to happen there. But, so that's pretty much it for the Dos Santos versus Ivanov card. Let's go ahead and break down the new one here. So we've already had the injury bug kind of play a role in this whole fight card. It was originally... Well, let's just say it's UFC Fight Night 134, coming from Hamburg, Germany, the Barclaycard Arena. It's going to be this, let's see. Yeah, it's actually an interesting start here. It's going to be in the states at least. It's going to be Sunday at noon Mountain Time, two Eastern. So a Sunday card, it's going to be pretty awesome. I always enjoy those, probably more than the Saturday night cards because I'm always working on Saturday night. But obviously, it's going to be Sunday night there in Hamburg, 2 o'clock Eastern. Main card starts here in the United States. But it was supposed to be headlined by about between Shogun Rua, ex-light heavyweight champion, and Volkan Ozdemir, the last dude to fight Cormier, I guess, or I believe so, at light heavyweight. Injury bug. Ozdemir goes down with an injury. Now we have a headlining event of Shogun Rua versus Anthony Smith. It doesn't really change the odds any as far as Las Vegas is concerned. They're not showing Shogun much love at all. It's going to be his first fight in about a year and a half. He TKO'd John Vellante March of 2017, but relatively inactive and obviously not getting any younger. 36 years old with 35 pro MMA bouts and also a ton of kickboxing bouts and a little bit of jiu-jitsu every now and again. He is on a 3-fight win streak, including a win over Little Nog, but that is 3 years ago. That fight was. Still training out of King's MMA, pretty much doing the same old Shogun thing. They actually have him ranked at number 8 right now in the light heavyweight division. Would have been a pretty massive underdog against Ozdemir. Pretty sizable underdog here, too, as well. He's a plus 195. Anthony Smith, unranked Anthony Smith, comes in at a minus 250. That's a lot of people giving support there for Anthony Smith. I mean, I don't necessarily blame him, but that seems like a high number. Smith's last fight was last month, where he knocked out Rashad Evans in the first round. That was his light heavyweight debut. Before that, back in February of this year, he was TKO'd by Thiago Santos in a fight of the night. It was actually pretty close, but obviously he was on the back end of that one. And then so he's had actually 3 fights within the last year. Last September, he knocked out Hector Lombard. 2 really big knockouts between Lombard and Evans. Third round with some heavy hands on that one. Well-rounded fighter, 15 knockouts and 11 submissions to his name, 29 wins, 13 losses. More MMA fights than Shogun, but not nearly as weathered. I mean, he's 7 years younger. But yeah, most of his fighting actually has come in MMA, where with Shogun's, a great percentage of it has come in kickboxing or some, other forms of martial arts there. Anthony Smith's going to be fighting out of Factory X in Omaha, Nebraska. That's tight. I like that. That's tight. Shogun, I remember back when he fought John Jones, man, I was actually a pretty big Shogun fan back in the day. I liked it because he kind of had a dad bod and he just kind of kicked people's ass with kickboxing. But man, that's a long time removed. And, it is strange that he has been winning his recent fights, just been taking a lot of time off. I'm on the Anthony Smith train here as well. I'm not on it for a minus 250. But I think Anthony Smith should surely be the favorite. I'm going to go ahead and take Anthony Smith. Probably a decision. I'm going to give him a decision victory. I don't think he's going to be able to finish Shogun. Obviously, his jiu-jitsu's not as well. Shogun's a black belt. Anthony Smith's brown belt, and not nearly as decorated as far as, who he's been training with. He's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was 6. And I just read it looks like he's been doing kickboxing, since Muay Thai specifically, since he was 7. So, technically speaking, he's going to be more skilled in every facet of the game, most likely, than Anthony Smith. Probably, I don't know that his hands are going to be quite as heavy. Pretty heavy hands. But I would give Anthony Smith, obviously, the age factor, the size factor. He's 6'4" to the 6'1" of Shogun. Reach is pretty similar. An inch and a half reach favorite for Anthony Smith. Man, he was a huge middleweight. Think about that, 6'4" at the middleweight division. But yeah, I just think he's going to be faster, more athletic, and I think that's probably going to be the difference in the fight. The age of Shogun, a young Shogun would, probably, he was the champion for a reason. He'd probably get a knockout here in this fight. But I'm going to go ahead and take Anthony Smith, and you can put that on the books. All right, let's move on to a pretty sweet matchup for a co-main event. To the light heavyweight division again, back-to-back. Not sure how this isn't the main event. I guess it's just because Shogun's so popular, especially in Europe. But light heavyweight division, we have the number 3, Glover Teixeira, taking on number 9, Corey Anderson. Teixeira 2-1 in his last 3 fights. Hasn't fought since December. It was a TKO victory over Misha Serkinov. Threw some heavy hands, as always. Big knockout there. And then, let's see, back in May of last year, he actually had a KO loss, 5th round KO loss to Alexander Gustafsson. That shit was a war. Actually won fight of the night there on the card. That was a tough one. Took a lot of damage in that fight. And then a couple of months before that, he had a decision victory over Jared Cannonier. That Gustafsson fight really was brutal. That's he's got to be relatively fortunate to get out of the first round in the Serkinov fight, and he's got to be hoping to do so probably in this one here. 27-6, 16 KOs, 7 submissions, pretty well rounded. Everybody knows that. Nobody wants to go to the ground with Glover. Not getting any younger though. 38 years old, obviously pretty close to the end of the career here. 2nd degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. Probably the best jiu-jitsu player in this entire card here. Better than Shogun. He's the beast. It's probably, by far. Looking at it, he's by far the best jiu-jitsu player in this entire card. Careful of that. Fighting out of the pit in Southern California. 6'2", 76-inch reach. He's going to be the slightly smaller man. Corey Anderson coming in at 6'3", 79-inch reach. That's a pretty nice 3-inch reach advantage there for basically being the same size of a person. Anderson just barely getting back on the right track, though. That's probably why he slipped into the rankings down to number 9. He had a decision victory earlier this year in April against Patrick Cummins. Looked pretty good in that one, but that was on the heels of back-to-back losses. One to Ovin St. Preux with the head kick knockout. That was pretty badass. That was November of last year. And then, obviously, if anybody remembers, the Jimmy Manuwa knockout, first-round knockout in March of last year. Both 2 brutal knockouts, highlight knockouts for the other guys. So it was good to see Corey Anderson be able to come back just 5 months after that head kick knockout from OSP and string together a three-round victory over Patrick Cummins. Good for him there. That took his record to 10-4, 4 knockouts. It's weird because he seems like he has a lot of power, but as far as the KOs, his KO ratio isn't nearly as high as Glover Teixeira's is. He has fought a lot of. He kind of was an up and comer relatively quick, so he, like Jimmy Manuwa was his 12th fight, for example. But yeah, purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Probably doesn't want to fuck with Teixeira there. It is Ricardo Almeida, so I mean it's a great team. He's fighting out of Almeida BJJ in Rockford, Illinois. I'm not really sure what their striking situation is for the most part, as far as who the coach is there. I'm sure they have their shit together, pretty well for the most part. That's going to be the key to victory, though. If Corey Anderson's to win this fight, he's coming in at an underdog. Plus 135 is going to be the money for him. Minus 165 for Glover. I'm actually surprised that the first fight isn't closer to these numbers, too. Maybe a minus 180 for Anthony Smith or something like that. Neither here nor there, but kind of is what it is. I'm taking Glover all the way. I think Glover wins this fight. We're talking about a 3-round fight here. I think he probably wins by a decision. Got a lot of power in his hands. I don't think he's really going to be, terribly interested in trading with Corey Anderson. He doesn't have a lot of time left on the ticker, or the brain, I guess, not really the ticker, but if I'm Glover Teixeira, I'm relatively worried about exchanging with Corey Anderson. Anderson has some mean hooks he can throw down and things like that. Obviously, big, long arms, powerful guy. But, to